Recording in progress.
Okay, testing. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hayward City Council meeting. It is testing. April 7th. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hayward City Council meeting. It is testing. April 7th. Am I good now? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today is April 7th, 2026. It is 7:02 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And if I could ask Councilmember Roach if she can please do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, thank you. Please stand if you're able.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, will you please take roll?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andrews.
Present.
Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Present.
Councilmember Syrup.
Present.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Present. Thank you. Next, if I could call upon our city attorney, if he can give us a closed session announcement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There was a closed session at 5:30 with Councilmember Andrews absent. The council conferred with its labor negotiators to discuss labor negotiations with all bargaining groups. There's no reportable action, and the closed session adjourned at 6:44.
Thank you. Today we have two special presentations. Our first special presentation is for the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And our second presentation is to acknowledge National Arbor Day, which is on April 24th, 2026. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week proclamation. Here with us this evening, we have our police chief, Chief Brian Matthews, and I don't see Mr. Strasser here. Chief Matthews, if you could come on up, and I will read the proclamation. And then after we read the proclamation, we'll go down. We'll take a picture, and then we'll you'll give us a 20-minute lecture on telecommunicators. Proclamation. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prominent response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and the preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality of accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Hayward Police Department 911 Communication Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas the members of the Hayward Police Department 911 Communication Center have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fire, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their jobs. And whereas the city of Hayward owes a debt of gratitude to the dedicated men and women of the Hayward Police Department 911 Communication Center who dedicate their lives to answering calls during times of intense personal crisis and community-wide disasters, who are the first and single point of contact for persons seeking relief during emergency. Now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of the City of Hayward, do hereby proclaim the week of April 12th to the 18th, 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Excuse me. And so let's give our men and women in the Telecommunications Center a big round of applause and dispatch. And I did see Mr. Strasser sneak in. So, and then let's go down and take a picture.
All right, you're not getting 20 minutes, but I do want to take a moment, Mayor and Council, to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to recognize truly an incredible group of human beings who do a very, very, very difficult job. These are the calm, collected voices behind the 911 calls when members of our community are having their worst day. Not only do they show empathy and effectiveness in gathering information, but they have to maintain situational awareness, and they're responsible for sending police officers, firefighters, and medical staff to help. And so they are the first point of contact. They are the first responders, and they do an incredible job. We are very, very lucky to have such talent in that dispatch center, like Mr. James Strasser, who's here on behalf of the Comm Center. So thank you again for the recognition, and I just want to give a shout out to our staff. They do an incredible job. Thank you.
Thank you. And when you do talk to them, please tell them thank you on behalf of the city and the council. Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Public Safety for their responsiveness to our residents in greatest need, and also look forward to the county helping us support our residents and visitors in great need. So we will continue to advocate to the county and the state to support us as we continue to respond to issues that we're seeing across the country happening in our city. So we look forward to continuing to partner with our representatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next proclamation. Oh, I'm sorry. Our next proclamation is National Arbor Day, and we have with us Richard Neild, our landscape maintenance manager. Mr. Neild? Oh. Mr. Rollman, the Director of Maintenance Services. Welcome, sir. Okay, National Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, provide environmental benefits, and beautify our community, they are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Whereas the City of Hayward, the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District, and the Hayward Unified School District are promoting Arbor Day so that we can reflect upon the ways trees benefit our community and encourage all residents to join in celebrating by planting a tree of their own. And whereas the City of Hayward has been recognized as a Tree City USA for 38 consecutive years by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. And whereas this year's City of Hayward Arbor Day celebration is taking place at Treeview Elementary School on April 28, 2026, now, therefore, I, Mark Salinas, Mayor of the City of Hayward, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026, National Arbor Day. Let's give our trees a big round of applause. And just so that you know, this past weekend, I planted 3, I guess they're like rose trees in my backyard.
I'll be coming by to inspect them, make sure they're healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Councilmember Zermania.
As I've been doing for the last 15 years, on the 20th of April, I'll be planting the 15th fruit tree at Chabot College, something that they really admire over there. And I thank Todd, who always finds me a tree to plant. So it's a good partnership between Chabot and the City of Hayward. So yes, go out and plant a tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our public comments. I have one public comment card here with me. And I have, I don't see anybody online, but I do have one public comment card. Mr. Sullivan, Sean Sullivan.
Thank you. You can see I'm not here often. I wanted to just come and thank you. I wouldn't bring you some good news. I know electeds don't always get a lot of good news, so I just wanted to share with you that after a very long time, Covenant House, California will be having its grand opening on Saturday, April 18th at 11 a.m. I know, Mayor, you mentioned that in your state of the city earlier this year, and we appreciate that. We just wanted to invite the entire community to come to celebrate these young people who are exiting homelessness and making their way on a path to self-sufficiency. So that again will be at 27211 Tyrell Avenue, right behind the YMCA and former elementary school there. We will serve 30 young people exiting homelessness and also serve as Alameda County's point of entry to the social service system for young people exiting homelessness. We want to thank everybody here for your support, the council, city manager for her support in this effort, and especially to Councilmember Andrews, who's been out there pulling weeds with us when there was weeds overgrowing because this project took too long, and helping us celebrate and lift up all the volunteer opportunities that we have there and will have there for people again. So we would just want to thank you all again.
If you have good news, you can have another 20 minutes if you want. Thank you, and thank you for your work out there. It's a major program that we're doing out there, and it's also a great collaboration between the school district, the city, and Covenant, California. So thank you very much. Okay, I don't see anyone online, so let me go back. Okay, I'm going to close public comments, and I'll move on to city manager's comments.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Council, construction is now underway on La Vista Park with anticipated completion by fall 2027. a joint project of the City of Hayward and the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District. La Vista Park is a new 39-acre hillside recreation area coming to South Hayward. We anticipate it will be a destination for the entire city and beyond. It's located above Mission Boulevard at Tennyson Road at the site of the old La Vista Quarry. The new park will have 180-degree plus views of San Francisco Bay with a ridge trail, sports fields, courts, an amphitheater, yoga lawn, and much more. The project is being funded with hard voter-approved Measure F1 bond proceeds and in lieu fees paid to the city by developers, including a contribution by the quarry owner to Silva Gates of Dublin, builder of a 179-home subdivision next to the quarry. Next Tuesday, April 14th at 4 p.m., the city and Hart are planning a ceremonial groundbreaking event to celebrate the project and the progress. And if you want to learn more, you can go to Hayward, our website at /content/La Vista Vista Park. Sorry about that. We also, the Economic Development Team, in partnership with the Alameda County Workforce Development Board, is co-hosting the Apprenticeship Pathways Employer and Educator Forum on Thursday, April 23rd at Hayward City Hall. The event will bring together employers, educators, and workforce partners to highlight the value of apprenticeship programs and building strong local talent pipelines and meeting hiring needs. The event is free, and business and educators interested in attending can email the Economic Development Team for registration information at economicdevelopment@hayward-ca.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, next, moving on to our consent calendar, and nobody has asked to pull. We got one. Is it just a short? Okay.
It's a question, I guess.
Okay. What number is it? Three.
Well, yeah, no, I guess, I thought it was consent and yeah, it is.
Okay.
Which is the first actually said after the minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll do this. Let's ask your question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, this is the consent item where we're giving authorization to accept up to $350,000 in grants should they come. And I just wanted to ask, yeah, maybe the library director could come up because, you know, obviously the library is missing a lot of state funds this year. And so I wanted to ask that we have not received $350,000. We're just giving authorization.
Yes, thank you, Council Member. Yes, we have not received $350,000. We do receive well over $200,000 a year, and so we haven't. We didn't not receive money this year. We are concerned about the coming year.
Okay.
And so that's what we're concerned about. But we do get at least $250,000 pretty much regularly from the state.
Okay, and the reason I wanted to ask is, you know, there are a lot of programs that are going away because different funding, federal funding and state funding. And so I just wanted to ask, like, what significant funding did we miss this year that didn't allow us to? I mean, I know HPN was one of them, but...
Yeah, so HPN is a federal grant, and
Yep.
it's separate. But again, the state library, we got all our grants this year. The coming year, the state has said they don't want to invest in English as a second language, ESL. We get significant money for that, and that is also one of our really large impact programs. So we impact about 300 people in the city through our ESL programs.
And that's the early literacy work as well, is that right?
The early literacy, we have a Families for Literacy program, which is separate.
Okay.
But we
So
don't
it's
get
the
very much
ESL.
money. ESL is the
Okay.
big one that we're concerned about, and
Okay.
that is a very significant part of our program.
And that was that one, was that about 150,000, is that right? Is that one?
That's about, let me see, we got, it's about 130,000
Okay.
annually, yeah.
Okay. And is there a possibility that will come, or is it's already been decided we're not going to get
I
this
think
next year?
there is still some talk going on, you know,
Okay.
that we're still trying to, we're working with our lobbyists through the California Library Association,
Okay.
working with different legislators to try to see if we can influence that.
Okay.
Yeah, because there is a May revise, you know, final revise.
Okay.
So we hope it'll get.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted us to make sure that we didn't get this money, that we're hoping to get some of it in the future. So, okay. Thank you for explaining that, and that was all I had, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before I ask for a motion, I'll.
I have a brief comment too. I don't know if I should. Did I show up on your iPad? I just want to make sure I'm.
I wasn't even paying
It's
attention.
okay. Just trying to.
No.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to comment on number 9, which is the adoption of the local speed management plan. I was also wondering if I can invite Byron up just to say a few words on it. I know that there's been some high-profile fatalities. We had a work session recently on how the city is trying to approach street safety. Not trying to retread, that past discussion, but maybe can you speak to how this management plan is addressing some of the topics that have come up over the past month and what this plan hopes to accomplish?
Yeah, council member. When it comes to reducing and getting our fatalities and severe injuries to zero, speed is a major factor in determining the severity of the injuries and collisions. So this plan outlines a strategy that we can use to reduce speeds overall throughout the city in the long term. This is going to support a lot of our projects and provides toolbox guidance and other ways how we can apply these speed management strategies to what we do.
Great, thank you for that. And I just wanted to thank the mayor and Councilmember Andrews for their work alongside me on the Infrastructure and Airport Committee. I think there's a PDF attachment to this that really condenses a lot of, to me, cutting edge thinking around traffic management, street safety. So I just commend you and the Public Works team that have been working to not only think these ideas through, but also implement them across the city. And so I'm really excited to see this moving forward. And I think it really demonstrates a strong leadership to improve the quality of streets for all modes of transportation and ages. So I just thank you for your work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll move to public comment, and let's see, I don't have any cards, and I don't see anyone online, so I will come back.
I pressed motion, I don't know if it popped up.
Let me refresh. I did see that, so moved by Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein. And Madam City Clerk, we can vote. And it looks like it unanimously passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to we have 2 work session items. Item number 12 is adopt a resolution, item number 13, which is the work session on the potential ballot measure to modernize the City of Hayward's business license tax ordinance. And this is going to come to us by way of our city manager, Ms. Ott, but I also see Ms. Perez sitting over there, and I see Ms. Thomas. So apparently there's some serious things going to be said.
They're going to be serious. And I'm a small part of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Perez, who's going to go ahead and give the presentation. Then I'll wrap it up at the end.
Thank you. No pressure, right? Good evening, Mayor and Council. Today we're here to continue the discussion from our February 28th work session about our business license tax modernization. Tonight we're going to briefly recap that work session, share the updated proposal details, and we're going to walk through business and voter feedback. At the February work session, we introduced the need to modernize Hayward's BLT structure. And just to clarify, when I say BLT tonight, I'm going to be referring to business license tax, not the sandwich, unfortunately. So at that work session, we presented you with 2 proposals. One of them was a match neighbors scenario, and the other one was a 7X revenue-based scenario. And we discussed some elements like a gross receipts structure, a payroll tax, and a minimum tax. So at that meeting, council expressed interest in exploring the match neighbors approach that aligns Hayward more closely with the surrounding cities and maximizes revenue potential. Council also expressed interest in adding additional gross receipts bracket and ultimately gave us direction to conduct public opinion polling and business engagement before coming back with a refined proposal, which is what we did and what we're here to discuss. So first, I'm going to be kicking it off to Matt Newman from Blue Sky Consulting. You met him at the February work session. He's going to be discussing what that updated tax structure looks like, and then we're going to be going into detail on our polling and our survey results. So Matt, are you online? There he is.
Are you mute? Can't hear you.
Matt, do you want to talk? We can see you, Matt. Can you see us, hear us? Oh, we cannot hear you, unfortunately. It keeps going back and forth. Are you able to, Miriam, do you know?
Matt, are you able to unmute your?
We cannot.
I'm here and I'm not muted.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Louder,
Anyway,
but yes.
Good evening, everybody, and
Miriam, do you know?
thank you for the chance to talk to you about the revised proposal. The proposal is in many ways quite
Matt,
similar
are
to
you
the
able
one
to
that you
unmute
all looked
your-
at the prior work session.
There you
It's
go.
changed a little bit to can you hear me raise now? a bit more
Yes.
money, about $2 million extra dollars.
Louder.
Anyway,
Hold on, Matt, can you hold on a
good
second?
evening, everybody.
Yes.
And,
Okay, go ahead. Oops.
Excuse me. Yes.
Could you please try again? Mr. Newman, could you?
yes. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So the proposal that we're sharing with you tonight is in many ways quite similar to the Match Neighbors proposal that you spent some time looking at your prior work session. We adjusted a few of the rate categories to try to raise a little bit more money, about $2 million more than the prior proposal. At the suggestion of a council member at the meeting, we also broke up the middle bracket, which went from 5 million to 25 million, which of course encompasses a lot of businesses, to try to make it a bit more fine-grained. So now there's an extra bracket in there, 5 to 10 and 10 to 25. So we have 4 total brackets. And the other structures are the same: a minimum tax of $60 and a payroll tax alternative for businesses that don't generate gross receipts. So this is what the proposal looks like. This display is quite similar to the one we shared before. You can see we're anticipating it'll generate about $14.4 million. The biggest changes in the rate categories are mostly with respect to the addition of the extra bracket, of course, which raises a little bit of extra money. We adjusted the utility companies' rates a bit, and also the commercial and residential property rates a bit as well. The thinking there was that the real estate in Hayward is one thing which can't leave, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't raise rates so high that other businesses were tempted to try to relocate outside of the city. So that's what this structure looks like. If we go to the next slide, you can see a different comparison. So what this shows is for some example businesses, the yellow band shows what these businesses would pay under current law. The green is what we discussed at the prior work session, and the blue is what the current proposal would consist of. And then below that, you can see what a business located in one of the neighboring cities would collect. So, for example, large retail currently would pay about $108,000 a year. Under the old Match Neighbors, it would be $197,000. We raised that just a little bit to get to about $236,000 for a large retailer with about $400 million in revenue. You can see that puts the city a bit above some of the close-in neighbors, less than Emeryville, less than Berkeley, less than Oakland. I won't go through all of these, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about how this compares to what the neighboring cities are charging or the old proposal. So maybe it's a good time to pause and see if there's questions.
So well, hold on a second. Are we gonna go slide by slide and ask questions, or?
I can wait till the end.
Yeah, let's wait till the end. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Now shifting to what we heard directly from the business community, We conducted a business engagement survey to ensure their perspectives were reflected in this process, and I'm going to walk through a summary of the key themes that we heard from the businesses. So first off, a total of 154 businesses participated in this survey, which we felt was a strong response. The majority of them were small businesses and businesses that are well established, with 85% of them having operated in Hayward for over 4 years and 30% operating for over 20 years. And we also heard from a mix of industries, the largest being the business and professional services community, which involves like your chiropractic offices, accounting, and tax offices, and the retail sales and restaurants category. When we asked businesses whether or not they agreed that our BLT structure should be updated to reflect today's business environment, the responses were fairly mixed. At the same time, even though the businesses did show support to modernize, they expressed concerns about rising costs, cumulative impact of added taxes, so cost sensitivity was definitely a theme here regardless of position. And when we asked how sensitive businesses would be to increases in the BLT, over 75% of the respondents reported moderate to extreme sensitivity to the increases. And some of the common responses that we saw were regarding inflation, increases to labor and rent, and indication that any additional tax would be felt alongside the existing financial pressures of having a business. Lastly, we took the opportunity to ask businesses about their experience with the business license application process and renewal process. And the good news here is that over 60% reported a positive experience, rating it easy or very easy process. And many respondents highlighted that the online system is easy to use and that the process is generally efficient. There were some notes about opportunities for improvement with response times, which is useful feedback for our internal operations. So in addition to hearing from our business community, we also conducted a round of public opinion research to see where the community stands. And for that piece, we did work with our public opinion research consultant, FM3. So I'd like to introduce Miranda Everett, who's also online, and she's gonna walk us through those findings. Miranda, are you online?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So my name is Miranda Everett. I'm a partner at FM3 Research. We're a public opinion research and strategy firm based in the Bay Area, and have done lots of research with Hayward over many years on finance measures and community surveys. So we know our community here quite well. So I'm here to present results of a recent survey conducted on voter views of a business license tax modernization measure. The next slide digs into our survey methodology here. This was done using our sort of typical approach these days, which is a mixture of landline, cell phone, email, and text invitation to the survey, kind of reaching people as many ways as we possibly can. We have 625 interviews represented here. That's quite a robust number for a city of your size. Often my statewide surveys are 600 to 800 voters. That gives us a margin of error of 4% for the full sample and about 6% for half sample questions. And you will see some tracking data going back all the way to 2008 when we first started working with the city. So the next few slides show some contextual questions we took the opportunity to ask since we were speaking to voters. The first is whether things in Hayward are headed in the right direction or whether they are off on the wrong track. In blue, you can see 45% believe things are headed in the right direction, so that's most voters. 36% believe things are headed off on the wrong track, and 20% say they don't know or are mixed. That is a slight improvement over the last time we asked about it back in 2024, when 40% said things were headed in the right direction. On the next slide, you can see we also asked people whether they're satisfied with the overall quality of life in Hayward. And that very top bar there shows the current results, where 73% say they are very or somewhat satisfied with their quality of life in Hayward. Just 26% say they are not satisfied currently. That's down a little bit from a high point last year in 2025, when 80% say they were satisfied. But higher than it had been in 2021 when 68% said they were satisfied. So generally fairly high numbers, although a little bit of a slide from 2025. The next slide shows satisfaction levels for something more specific, which is how the city is doing providing resident services. 60% say they're satisfied with the job the city is doing to provide resident services, 31% dissatisfied. That, again, is a slight drawback from 2025 when 69% were satisfied and 23% were dissatisfied, but an improvement when you compare it to 2021 when 56% were satisfied. So again, very similar pattern for a slightly different question. The next question we asked, and this is one that we had asked back in 2024 when we were looking at a different finance measure for the city, was whether people see a need for additional funding to maintain essential city services and facilities. And you can see quite a need here. 75% see a great or some need for additional funding for these services and facilities. 40% see a great need, the higher end of the scale. And this is pretty comparable to 2024. So the next few slides walk through our approach to asking about the business license tax modernization ballot measure. The first thing we did very early on in the survey is give people the 75-word hypothetical ballot measure language. It's kind of a run-on sentence, and includes lots of legal details and financial details, but it is close to what's required by law to be on the ballot. Knowing that one piece of information, how people react to what they might see before they check yes or no, is kind of the most important piece of information that we can get. What's their sort of initial impression of what they see? And you can see the language everyone heard or read on that slide. Thank you. And the results of that are fairly positive. 59% say they would vote yes on the measure. 29% said they would definitely vote yes. 33% are leaning at least toward a no vote, or definitely no, or probably no. And then just 8% are undecided. So this is a good place to start. You're looking at a measure that needs a simple majority for approval, and you have that along with a little bit of cushion considering our margin of error. But what's notable here is that about half of your supporters here, 30%, are just a probably or leaning toward a yes vote. So there's some indication here that there's a little more information that's needed to really bring up that yes vote number and get people more sure of their decision. So to help with that, we gave people just 3 short paragraphs explaining the current status quo with business license taxes in the city, how this compares to other areas, and then a little bit more about the different rate structures, how much it would generate, what it would pay for, and a bit of the accountability piece. So very kind of neutral information, just not leaning on the scales too much, just saying kind of what we're doing here, what we're changing, and what impact that might have on the city. The next slide shows the impact of that information, which was quite significant. There you can see we moved from 59% yes to 68% yes with that information, and our definitely yes share jumped 10 points from 29% definitely yes to 39% definitely yes, so in a much stronger position. So I think this all kind of adds up to a measure that looks viable should you choose to place it on the ballot. Voters see a need for funding in the city. They're generally supportive of the business license tax measure, and just a little bit of plain language information is helpful in consolidating that yes vote. And happy to take questions at the end.
Great. Thank you, Miranda and Ms. Perez. I'm here just to talk about what we're looking for tonight. This is a work session item. Our hope is really to come back in May with a final, if the direction is to pursue this, to come back with kind of final ordinance changes and all the actions that are necessary to put this on the ballot in November. So tonight we would like to invite council to provide any feedback and final direction so that we can come back in May with kind of a final measure. So some of the things we just want to make sure, based on the feedback we received in February from council, make sure that the council's comfortable with the way that we've addressed the gross receipts base structure, some of the changes we made in response to your comments, the progressive rate structure. Is there any direction, anything else you'd like to give direction on in terms of the proposed rate structure or bracket? So we'd like to hear your feedback. And then based on that feedback, assuming the direction is to move forward, we'll take that feedback, make the final changes, and come back in May with that ordinance, the ordinance changes and all the info necessary to put it on the ballot in November.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Okay, so let me come back. And this is a work session, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up for public comment first. I don't have any cards. I did see, Okay, I do see a couple of hands. Our first caller is Emily Wallace.
Yes, hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. During your February budget workshop, the city stated that it would reach out to labor partners to discuss this effort to modernize its business license tax. Yet the city is about to make a critical decision on the updated model, and no one has contacted us. So we wanted to make sure that you understand our concerns about the proposed match neighbors tax model. If Hayward wants to match its neighbors, then you must look at cities that have successfully updated their business license tax in recent years. Instead, the city is comparing itself to outdated systems that are just as old as Hayward's current model. Cities like San Leandro, who are working to modernize their business tax structure because it hasn't been updated in 15 years. Fremont hasn't had a change to their business tax since 1978, and Pleasanton hasn't changed theirs since 1983. When we look at the surrounding agencies that have modernized their business tax structure recently, the match neighbors scenario doesn't even come close to matching Hayward's neighbors. The model that Hayward has presented falls short. We believe that Hayward needs to go farther with updating the tax rates for industries like professional services, business personal services, and commercial rentals. These categories capture things like data companies, commercial banks, and landlords, which typically have extremely high profits each year, and they should be fairly taxed. And we can't let businesses scare us into inaction. The UC Labor Center found that there are several factors that go into deciding a location for a business, and a tax structure is not the only factor that is considered. Businesses care a lot about a city's ability to deliver high-quality services that keep our city safe and clean with stable infrastructure. If the city has no revenue for its services, that's going to deter businesses from opening up shop in Hayward. We're glad that the city is taking this important opportunity to modernize its business license tax, but it must be done in a way that creates the ongoing structural change that's needed to address Hayward's financial crisis. Laying off our workforce, keeping Hayward in a perpetual hiring freeze, demanding that city workers give up their wage increases, closing our library, and gutting Hayward's public services is not sustainable structural change, but this is. So on behalf of our members and the communities we serve, we demand that you take real leadership on Hayward's future and design a ballot measure that brings our business tax structure into alignment with our neighboring cities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next caller is Zoom user.
Hi, that's me. I'm Suzanne Luther from Hayward Concerned Citizens, and I'd like to say bravo, bravo, Emily Wallace. Thank you for your comments. And I feel like these surveys that FM3 is doing, why don't they just come out and ask the question first? Do you want a 4 times business tax? They ask these little questions that make everything look really good, and then they ask the other questions. I don't like that. And the verbiage that you're using, modernization, sorry, it seems slimy to me when you guys are saying that you're totally transparent. I think that you guys really need to relook at things and reevaluate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Derek, Ro Aguilar.
Good evening. Mayor, and City Council. I have a few questions about this ballot measure. Number one, can the money be used to address homelessness? Can it be used to offer services, match with the county in housing? Is it flexible enough to do that? Does it need to say it in the ballot, or is that included under core services? And I don't think that we can expect our businesses to thrive if we haven't addressed this problem of homelessness. So I'd like to know how the city is approaching that with this ballot measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is Derek Barnes.
Good evening, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Derek Barnes, CEO of East Bay Rental Housing Association. EBRA is named as a partner in the report, and we represent small rental owner-operators throughout the East Bay, including Hayward. We support modernizing the BLT. The current structure hasn't changed since 1978, and that's not sustainable, as we know. But we have serious concerns about how residential rental is treated in this proposal, and we're asking council to address them before May. Caution, the proposed ordinance taxes all residential rental from duplexes to large apartment complexes at a flat $3 per $1,000 gross receipt. And that's the highest rate in the schedule, with no graduation for smaller owner operators. Your own data shows this is roughly tenfold increase for 4+ unit properties, and it takes about 4,800 small rental property owners from effectively zero to a new gross receipts. And we need to take a hard look at that. These are not institutional investors, and I think you need to be concerned about that. These are small mom and pops who have properties largely from family inheritance or for retirement purposes, and they're generally working class people that own these properties. Questions you were asking: was a graduated or tiered rate for residential rental ever modeled? And what is the revenue impact of a lower entry-level rate for small owner-operators? Council should have that analysis before locking in any ballot language. And our recommendation, direct to staff, is to return in May with at least one alternative scenario that applies a reduced rate below $250,000 in gross receipts, consistent with how every other business category this proposal is structured. And I think that just kind of applies a fair and standard way of kind of looking at exemptions for those small owner operators. We have a challenging time, I think, just in across the Bay Area with making sure that our council understands that our small mom and pops are actually businesses too. Not just any business, they provide a service, and many of them are small owner operators that are reeling from the pressures of high rising costs like any other business. And I think those small owner operators should have some special attention and exemptions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I don't have any more callers. Let me come back to council. Council Member Andrews.
Thank you for the presentation, and just had a few questions. From the survey, did the respondents, did they specifically say what they were dissatisfied with? Is there a particular issue that was brought up that reoccurred in their responses?
In terms of the renewal process, or I'm sorry, which?
You're talking about the FM3?
The FM3.
Okay, Miranda, are you still on, and could you?
Yes. We did not ask a follow-up open-ended question about dissatisfaction, so we don't have the answer to that question specifically.
Okay. And what will we offer with this increase? What are the things that we're going to promote in order for them to understand that if we were to pass this, this is the things that you're going to see as a result?
Yeah, well, this is a general tax, so it could be used on any of the general fund services that we provide, but you see that we highlight this really is something just for us to be able to provide our public safety services, our services to eliminate blight, all the things that we use our general fund money for, and predominantly it is for public safety, and so this would go to help us be able to sustain our public safety services.
Okay. And then I guess a recommendation is to talk about our declining property crime data that was released. We did a press release not too long ago, and maybe that's something you can promote when we do come to the voters regarding that. Yep. And then also wanted to know, so there was a question about homelessness and core services, and how are we prioritizing core services, and how does that fit in with this increase?
Yeah, I mean, we do currently use general fund money to support homelessness services and to address homelessness in the city. So that is something at the council's discretion that these funds could be used for that. We currently do that. I think that would be part of a proposed budget, part of a council action to approve that. But that is something that we have the flexibility to use these funds for. I think given where we are financially, I think core services from my standpoint as a city manager would be to focus on public safety, on providing making sure we have sufficient services to eliminate blight, our maintenance services. So we'd want to focus on those, but we do currently have the flexibility to use these funds for homelessness as well.
And can we just have a quick update on our partnership with the county and how we are trying to work with them on these homelessness services?
Yeah, sure. So one of the main ways, in addition to just being part of regional bodies that talk about homeless strategies, we Measure W is a funding source that the county is using for this, and we are actively participating in grant application right now to try and acquire some of that money for the local services here in the Hayward community. And so that's one of the main ways that we're trying to partner with them.
Okay. And then also wanted to ask about the point that was raised by IFPTE about being contacted regarding this increase, and wanted to see if we have made contact and if there's any follow-up.
Yeah, we invited, we were very clear. We actually held a couple budget sessions and talked about the business license tax and the efforts we were making. And then we invited all of our labor groups to attend the council's February work session, to join and attend, where we shared information related to this. We invited them to comment if they wanted, or to participate. It's an open meeting. And so we sent those invitations to them. And then subsequently at additional meetings, we asked if they had any questions about what was raised at that meeting on February 28th, and invited any thoughts that they had.
Thank you for the clarification. And then also wanted to respond to the East Bay Regional Housing Association, and wanted to see if we can revisit some of the thresholds that he was raising.
I don't know if Matt wants to chime in, or do you want me to? Do you want me to talk a little bit? So we did bring this up with the council in February, where residential units that are 1 to 3 units are currently exempt from our current tax, and the recommendation was to include them. You can exclude them. You could make that decision to do that, or to change. It looks like one of their things was the tax rates by bracket doesn't change, so you could give us direction to graduate that tax rate as the tax rates go up. But I'd invite Matt, our consultant, to talk a little bit about it too, if he has anything else to add.
Yeah, we certainly can set the rates however you want, and we could share a proposal in the future with more graduated rates, as well as the flat rates that we're showing here. We had a slightly more graduated rate structure, which we proposed in the original match neighbors, and we could go back to that. This one just raises a bit more money. One concern is that you want to make sure that you're treating all the tenants the same too, and not necessarily disadvantaging tenants that live in larger buildings to the extent that the costs are passed on to them. But it's certainly possible to adjust the rates to have it be slightly more graduated.
Okay, thank you for bringing up the point of the tenants, because that's something I didn't consider before. So, okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Zermeño.
Mayor, thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Perez and Matt and Miranda. A good report. I'm looking at the staff report, which is page 2. At the moment, we are second from the left. Dublin is to the left, and Oakland is to the very right. If the voters were to approve this, it would place us where on this graph? Or is it a guesstimate?
Matt, he's referring to the selected Bay Area cities comparison. Can you touch on that one from the staff report, please?
We don't want to go to Oakland, and we don't want to be as where we are now. I always like to see us in the middle of things.
Yes, let me just pull the staff report up so I've got it here. If we were to approve the revised match neighbors proposal, which we're looking at right now, we'd be just right around San Jose, maybe a little bit below, between Livermore and San Jose.
Okay, all right. So it would be slightly higher than San Leandro and Union City, which are neighboring cities, Pleasanton. Okay.
Yes, actually, I apologize. I misspoke. We'd be just slightly above San Jose. San Jose is at about 3.82, and okay. I think we'd be just slightly above that, but very close to that.
But we would not be the highest, nor would we be the lowest. All right, that's good. Would this program consider any waivers for folks who may be having a difficult time? A caller spoke about, mom and pop renters. Is that something that can be included? Some kind of a waiver, some kind of something or other along those lines?
Yeah, we don't currently have a waiver. And I don't know, Matt, if you want to talk about if any other cities that you've ever seen include a waiver.
Does it exist? I don't know.
Our current business.
Typically, that's a bit unusual. I haven't seen it with respect to a business license tax, and one reason is that it requires the city to determine what constitutes a hardship. So every case has to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and it's difficult to identify in advance non-arbitrary criteria which can be relied on. Another thing which I think is important to note is that the tax is based on gross receipts. So if you consider, for example, the case of a landlord, if they have vacancies, for example, the gross receipts would be lower and their tax bill would go down as a result. So there's sort of a somewhat of a built-in mechanism to have lower taxes when business revenues go down.
Okay, all right. Okay, I was just wondering about that. Did we forget anything on the shopping list of the ballot message? Did we included public safety? I think we included the unhoused. Can we put that up again? We included potholes. Just wondering if we can include something along the lines of pedestrian and bicycle safety, because that is something that it's a previous one. There, okay. Police, firefighting, 911, etc. But I think it would be good to see something along the lines of pedestrian and bicycle safety. We've been talking about this for a while. People are I get some emails about what are you doing to prevent the death and fatalities that are on the streets, et cetera. So maybe consider it if there's space. If we're limited in words, then obviously.
Yeah, it's a 75-word ballot, but we can look at it again and see if there's some things
All
that they
right,
should.
okay, pothole repairs. I certainly will be voting for this, and it seems that the yeses are winning. It's almost, 68% yes, and I heard correctly that it's majority, simple majority. So I like it. Please go ahead and work on it, and we'll see you in May when you come back with the final package. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Let's see. Thank you, everyone, for the work that's gone into this. I wanted to ask about the polling and, basically, like, what are best practices? Like, what high number do you want to know that we can hit that majority number? And I mean, I understand the comment that we're looking pretty good at, was it 63%, I guess, when we get to the information, 68 when we get to the information question. But given that, I mean, things are really hard right now, and there's not necessarily going to be an appetite for continued taxes because everybody is hurting. Is that sort of changed at all right now, or is this still the recommendation that 68 is looking pretty good?
Yeah, I'd say it's looking very positive. There's lots of room for people to potentially peel off or change their mind between now and November when the measure's on the ballot. Lots of clients are getting numbers in the 40s and the low 50s where they're not even sure that they're viable to place on the ballot. So I think you guys are well positioned. And I'm not too surprised to see that with a business license tax. Frankly, most voters are not going to pay that personally. And so they just need to be reassured, as we did in the plain language information statement about, this is a reform, it's going to protect small businesses, et cetera, some of the things that they might care the most about, and then just be informed about the oversight and audits and other pieces that we know voters care about, especially in times when they're feeling that taxes might be.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. And thank you for that comparison, that if you're seeing other ballot measures pull at more of a 40%, that actually makes me feel better. Thank you for that comparison. And then on the feedback from the business community, I mean, I totally understand why they don't want to see any increase in tax. I mean, everybody's hurting right now, so every little bit is really going to matter. And there's a couple of categories that will go up significantly. But when you were talking with them, was there any sort of nuanced message, sort of acknowledging it's true that this hasn't been updated since 1978? Was there at least an understanding of that? I mean, did you even capture any nuance info like that? I don't know who can answer that, but.
Yeah, well, when we asked if they felt that we should, that's where it got really mixed. So like some agreed, like a third agreed, a third disagreed, a third stayed neutral. But we did go to the Government Relations Committee with the Chamber, and we didn't hear much about that. Jen, do you?
Yeah, I was going to say we both presented to the DHIA board as well as the Government Relations Committee for the Chamber, and what we heard was, they never want to, no one's going to come out and be like, we love to be taxed more, but I think people were generally supportive and kind of acknowledge, I guess maybe supportive isn't, but acknowledge the need to modernize. Okay. And that knowing the city's financial situation, I think there was kind of a general acceptance is what I'd say when we went to those, to the Chamber and to the DHIA board.
That's helpful. Thank you. That's
I mean, it's hard there, and with inflation and other things, it's I don't think any business is gonna be glad to see this increase, but I think there was an acknowledgement too that we were really careful about restaurants. We were really careful about small businesses. I think they appreciated that as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's what I was sort of hoping that was part of the conversation. And for that same reason, I wanted to make a comment about the ballot language. I think the ballot question is fine, but because I even found the most compelling piece of all this was that it hadn't been updated since 1978, because when we recognized that we were going to be going into a pretty big deficit, I felt really clearly like we can't tax everybody again. We just passed Measure K1, and I didn't want to do that again, but I was convinced, because when we haven't modernized a tax since 1978, I think that is an understandable argument. I think the community can understand that. So I would add that also on the additional ballot language piece, that right at the top, that this is something that hasn't been updated since 1978. It is time to modernize, and then all the other information. So I think we have to keep reminding everyone that this is timely. Let's see, and because I am supportive of updating this tax. I think we need to do it. It sounds like it's the right time to do it. And I do, sort of part of the caller's comments. I mean, everyone knows we're in this very difficult budget situation, and so we're trying to make the best decisions we can. But everyone is going to hurt on this, right? So everyone's going to have to give a little bit. So I don't think we can overreach in the business community to fix our deficit. But I do think it's timely for us to update this tax if we can, if the voters agree. But I don't think we can make a potentially risky overreach. I think we have to find a way to do this proportionally, reasonably. Hayward is a little bit different than a lot of our neighboring cities. Our economic demographics are not as strong, and I don't think we can sort of tax the business both like in a hard way and the actual money. We can't make them do all of it either, right? Everyone we're going to have to find our way through this in a reasonable way. And so I am appreciative of the match neighbor scenario here, and I will support us going forward on this and looking further at the ballot language. So thank you everyone for your hard work.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Syro.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the report. I'm really encouraged by these results. I think when we were moving K1 forward 2 years ago, we saw a percentage around this amount, and then I think the trust of voters in the city council really showed with the 83% approval, which was, I think, higher than anything we had pulled on. So I'm feeling optimistic about this. Of course, I don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but I also feel comfortable moving forward with this. I think as far as feedback and maybe some small revisions to review before we put the final draft on is I understand Ms. Wallace's concerns around, when we say matching neighbors that also have outdated business license taxes that are also currently in the process of revisiting how to modernize theirs. And so rather than continuing to look at match neighbors in the 7X, maybe have a new, maybe match neighbors version 2, which is here are business license taxes in the Bay Area that have been updated in the last 10 years. And that way we could have a more realistic comparator of other modern business license taxes, because I imagine more cities will likely be going in this direction as they face revenue challenges as well. And if we're going to do this once every 50 years, we might as well get it right so we don't have to constantly update it again. So I think being able to understand, what a comparator to more modern business license taxes looks like would be helpful for me feeling very confident in making that final decision when the final proposal comes before us in the future. And maybe the final decision for adoption is really option A or option B based off of that feedback. And then let me see. As far as specific categories go, I mean, this is where I think Emily and Derek have an interesting overlap is for residential 1 to 3 units, the reason why there's no graduation is that if you only have 3 residential units that you're renting out, you're likely not bringing in over $5 million worth of revenue and sales. So there's not really a reason to graduate that specific category. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that for public knowledge. In previous iterations, I think we were looking at graduation, and we've kept it flat just to make sure that the burden on tenants was consistent across the board. However, if we wanted to see graduation, I think Emily had mentioned this, I can imagine commercial rental being a place we look at again. And I think it's set at $3, but maybe we bump it up to $3. I don't know what the previous iteration was. But we can look at graduating that upwards, or we can keep it flat. I'm open to either of those options. In reality, I'm not interested in graduating down, because in reality, if you own 3 units and you're renting them out at the median rent of $23.50 a month, you're raking in $84,000 a year off your 3 tenants, and we're asking you to pay $252 estimate, right? That's pretty reasonable if you're running a business in the city of Hayward, when for the past 50 years you've been exempt from paying any taxes whatsoever. And the toll of smaller mom and pop landlords is usually a larger burden on our staff time and resources, our taxpayer dollars, because oftentimes they're not equipped with professional staff. So I'm fine with where it is currently, and if we were going to graduate it in any direction, I'm happy to graduate it up, but it doesn't seem like there's much of an appetite for that, so I'm not really here to die on that hill. But I just wanted to, I think sometimes the argument around mom and pops can get us to be overly sympathetic to the point where we're not actually thinking about the hard numbers and what that translates to. So I'm fine with where it's at. If Suzanne has any suggestions on how we should rewrite our surveys in the future, I'm all ears. You have our email addresses. I encourage you to send me your iteration of the survey question. Are there other versions or other pieces of direction you're looking for from the council?
No, I think that's helpful.
Okay, and overall, I think the language makes a lot of sense. I think because this is a more technical ballot measure, even if we make some small adjustments to these numbers, we're in the ballpark currently, and changing that amount, I don't think is going to mess with the survey results that much. So I still feel confident if we make some small tweaks before we make that final vote. And then also just for our labor partners, I know that I have a meeting scheduled with one of our city unions tomorrow to discuss this. Please be proactive in reaching out. If you feel like you're not being heard from, you know how to reach us ahead of these council meetings. I'm always happy to chat. My interest in pushing a little bit on specific categories, comparing ourselves to more modern cities is based off of your feedback both today and that I've heard in phone calls prior. So even if there's not a direct meeting, and it sounds like we have tried to do some outreach, you still have access to us, and we're also happy to relay those comments here too. So if we move forward with this is at the urging of our labor unions, and we're really going to depend on that partnership to move this across the finish line in November. So just want to express good faith in working together to make this as strong as possible, as effective as possible, and see it through. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to also thank the staff for the hard work on this. It's clear that there's a lot of thought that went into this, and also thank my council colleagues for the feedback that we provided to date. I think what's in front of us tonight is really reflective of all of that, so just want to say thanks again. I also agree that I think the headline here needs to be that this hasn't been updated since 1978 somehow, maybe not in the actual ballot language itself, but maybe in some of the marketing material or how it is we talk about this. When I think about a structure, a tax structure, any structure that hasn't been updated in that long, I think it's clear that it's time to modernize it to better reflect today's business environment and the economic realities that we're all living in. I do support the direction that we're heading in, and I specifically support the approach of the matching neighbor scenario. I think it strikes a thoughtful balance between modernization, competitiveness, and fairness. I appreciate, the thought of should we look at other jurisdictions that have updated their business license, and I think we should, but I don't think it should be limited there, because if I'm going to open a business, I really don't care if San Leandro is doing something in 5 years. I kind of want to know what they're doing now. So I do think that it's important to take that into consideration, but I really want to make sure that we're aligned with today's realities and, kind of if we see that, like San Leandro, I know they're going through the process right now, so if we see that that's heading in a particular direction and it's likely, I think we should incorporate those type of, assumptions into this. But otherwise, I think the way that this is written does strike a very good approach. I also appreciate the approach of responsibly finding a way of maximizing our revenue by identifying, approximately $2 million in additional opportunities while staying aligned with council's prior direction. I don't think we're going out here trying to, do something that wasn't previously asked for. I think that this just shows the discipline that we're putting in place as we're looking at this tax measure to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our businesses and for our broader community. I think aligning with neighboring jurisdictions is important, especially when you consider the level of amenities, services, and community investment Hayward provides. I think it's reasonable that our structure reflects that value. I mean, we have a city, and we always talk about, our road and our pavement index and how high that is compared to surrounding jurisdictions. We know that safety in the community is increasing. There's, we have a very responsive local government. So I do think that, businesses should pay their fair share for the services that they're getting, and I think that this modernization aligns with that. But one area that I do, just have some concerns about, or I want to just better understand practically, is the impact on small businesses and landlords. So can you help sort of quantify what it means in real terms? Like, what would it look like for a typical small business? What would this increase look like, on an annualized basis for them? And then when we talk about small landlords, particularly we heard about, landlords that have 1 to 3 units, what would this impact look like just in a real dollars and cents, perspective? Because I think that perspective is important for us.
I'll defer to Matt for that question.
Yeah, I think some of that information is in the slide that we have where we compare to the neighbors. I don't know if it's possible to pull that up, but that might help to answer this question a bit.
I just shared that calculation. I don't know if you heard me share those numbers.
I did. I just wanted to hear it and kind of just hear it from the perspective of this slide and also what the consultants had to say with that. Because I know that the numbers are, I don't want to say relatively low, but that's sort of where what I'm getting from this, and also the slide. And I know that there's some mixed feedback that we've been getting from businesses and from some of the callers today. But I think putting these increases in perspective is pretty important, and then understanding the compounding impact it's going to have on our ability to maintain services is also the other bookend that I think is important when we're looking at these rate increases.
Yeah, Mayor, may I just jump in? I mean, because we did the same thing with the chamber, was to give a couple examples and say them out loud. So I think it's a great idea. I think just to give a sense of a couple that I know will be sensitive, one is small retailers that are trying to start their business and don't have a lot of gross receipts. So as an example, let's say a small retailer that has 5 employees, has gross receipts of $1.5 million. They're currently paying $404 per year, and with this new tax measure, they'd be paying $450 per year, so not a big increase. For a restaurant that has 25 employees with gross receipts of $1.9 million, right now they pay $512, and they'd be paying $570 per year. So not, again, we try to be very sensitive to some of those retailers. For the residential rental, we didn't do a small one, but just to give you a sense of the 50-unit rental that has $1.7 million in gross receipts, they're paying $566 now. So this is a 50-unit project. They'd be paying $5,100 under the new tax. So a bigger increase, but still $5,100 for $1.7 million and 50 units of housing. So I just want to give you a couple examples that I think stand out to me.
Yeah, I think those are great examples, and I appreciate that, because if you think about sort of the increases of everything else since 1978 and kind of what you just discussed here, it really does put things into perspective, and I think it demonstrates the prudence that we're putting in place and the thoughtfulness as we're trying to balance what this measure looks like. And I think it's clear from feedback that we got from our business community that they have a range of perspectives on this proposal, which is understandable, but I think the context that you provided is helpful. I think changes like this can be challenging, but it reinforces that we're striking the right balance as we look at this modernization effort. I also appreciate, that we heard from the Hayward voters and that we're taking a real balanced view and hearing from all sides here. And I think the voters have signaled that it's also time to update our BLT. And modernizing this structure positions us to better support and deliver services not only to our businesses, but to our community as well. So I'm aligned with the gross receipt base structure and the progressive rate structure. And I'm also aligned with the brackets as they were currently discussed tonight. At the end of the day, I think that this is about sustaining essential services in a responsible way, and this approach represents a fair and responsible path to do that. So, and I also think that it ensures that our businesses contribute in a way that aligns with the value of the services and infrastructure that supports them. So I'm comfortable moving forward, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness that's went into this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Goldstein.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, staff, for the hard work that went into this. Great report. I also want to thank Labor for bringing the idea forward. I mean, it was really an important thing for us to consider. And I think that if we're not having the conversations with them, I think we really ought to be. And the idea of matching our neighbors, good idea. But as Mayor Pro Tem Cyrop suggested, matching modernized neighbors is probably the right way to go. And I think we probably, by not doing that, we're probably leaving money on the table. I am a little concerned about the potential impact of some of the other tax measures that may be making the ballot. Have we considered any of those other tax measures?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it. I don't know, Miranda, do you want to talk a little bit about that? And then I can chime in too.
Could you restate the question?
Yeah, impact of other tax measures that may be on the ballot.
Sure. So that was something we explored in part of the survey. We just didn't share in this more concise slide deck. I think even after that information, we still had pretty broad support. So people typically consider measures individually in terms of what they will pay for, whether they trust the agency issuing the measure, and whether the kind of amount and mechanism is appropriate. And here, since this is something that, again, most voters are not going to pay themselves individually, I think that makes that choice a little easier for them. So they're not necessarily saying, I'm only going to vote for one measure on the ballot today. They're going to consider each one individually.
Okay, great. Thank you for that analysis. And it makes a whole lot of sense that people will be looking at this as something that the businesses pay, even though in reality that means, to some degree anyway, some prices will increase. But I think most people accept and agree with we do need to continue to have great public safety and good roads. And it also benefits not only residents and visitors, but also the businesses in the community. And I think for that reason, the language in the marketing materials does need to highlight that this is the first modernization that's happened since 1978, and also talk about the mutual benefits to both the community and the businesses. And I think if we can squeeze the words in there too, that we are still business friendly. This doesn't, take away from that. If anything, we're looking to continue to provide great services to the residents and businesses in our community, and this is the way to do that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I generally agree with the sentiments up here, and I wanted to thank everybody for their comments. I do want to just add one element to this. And I've said this before, even when we talked about this back in February. We're raising a tax on businesses. And, I also want to be very mindful of if we are going to go to the business community and ask them for an increase, I think we should be in a position, and I think it's only right, that we provide a clearly defined service or a clearly defined expectation to the business community. There are some things that the business community just consistently has come to us for. One being permitting process, right? The length of time, the process, and so forth. So I say that because what I would like for us to do, and I know that we're not necessarily talking about programmatic things right now, and I understand this is going to the general fund, and I understand that this is going to pay for a lot of different things, but what I would like for us to do is figure out a defined benefit to the business community that we can say that this tax is supporting to fund or to support new businesses either coming to Hayward or a defined benefit that businesses, small, medium, and or large, can take advantage of. Because I don't want to do this and not have and not do something directly in response and show a benefit to the business, to businesses. And so that would be the only thing. And I know right now we're not talking about how we're going to spend the money, and I know we're not talking about those kinds of programmatic level things. But as we go down this road, I know I'll be thinking about that, and I'm sure the rest of us will be thinking about that. But I don't want to take that off the table. I want us to be able to provide something very tangible, concrete, to either new businesses or existing businesses in the city, so that they see that they're benefiting from this. Because personally, I mean, I would not want to pay a tax and know that I'm not directly benefiting from whatever it is that I'm paying for. And so I am encouraged by the survey data. I am encouraged by the support that we see. I'm encouraged by the support of the ballot language. And I think it demonstrates that the city is seeing us delivering services. They are seeing us meeting those expectations at the neighborhood level. So, so I appreciate that. Let's see. I don't want to repeat too much. I'm still trying to, I understand what Council Member or Mayor Pro Tem Syrup was saying about, the 1 to 3 unit landlords. I get it. At the same time, I want to see some more. I want to see some more work on that, and I can see that it might be minimal, but I'd like to see some more thought placed in that. How might we, how might that look like if we were to carve out 1 to 3, and if we do include it, what might that look like? How much will it cost? Very specifically, what does that look like? I know Mayor Pro Tem, I know you mentioned some of the numbers there, but I just want to see some very formal presentation of that.
We can pull up, it would be slide 5 if we want to talk about it. I think it would help if we get direction, because I think when we bring back the ordinance and everything, we'll have to introduce an ordinance at that point, is that right? So I just want to,
okay.
if the council wants to decide now how they want to deal with.
Okay, bring it up.
If that's okay, it'd be slide 5. So just, yeah, right there. And so you'll see the 1 to 3 generate about 464,000 under this current proposal. The tax rate is consistent for both the 4+ and the 1 to 3. So what the speaker was suggesting is that we graduate the 1 to 3. So instead of starting at 3, maybe you start at something lower for the, I think what I heard Mayor Pro Tem Syrup say was to maybe even start at 3 and actually go up further for the residential landlords. So we would need some direction for how the council, kind of the majority of the council wants to proceed.
Okay, because I don't think I heard a consensus up here on this, and so I wanted to. So leave it. Councilmember Roach.
Thanks. Yeah, I know we did have a discussion about this. I think when we saw it earlier, but I heard George's numbers. I just want to get that from maybe staff that's right. Is it really just that we're maybe like what will be the cost of one landlord in the year paying this? What's their additional going from 0 right now to?
We could ask Matt if he could potentially, so like if you look at the next slide, which is slide 6, they actually have to like run the numbers for individual scenarios. And we just didn't run a small landlord one, which, so I don't know, Matt, if you can run that.
Give me a ballpark.
Can we divide sorry, I was going to say, can't we divide the revenue expected by the number of people that would pay it to get an average amount, which is about $95 average?
The math is relatively straightforward. If you think about if rent were $2,000 a month, then this would be $6 per month that would be added to the rent bill or paid by the landlord.
Right. Oh, I see. Because it's per thousand.
If it's $3,000 a month, then it'd be $9 a month. So you can kind of figure out the arithmetic for whatever size unit you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought, because I remember, thanks for refreshing my memory, because I know we had this discussion about it. So for that reason, I'm happy leaving it the way it is. Thank you. The way it's proposed.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it seems like there's consensus there, and then, so we'll leave it there. And then, so just to go back, so it seems like we're fine with the language. Seems like we're fine with I guess the programmatic side of it is match cities, right? And the only thing I would add is as we move down this process and we start to define programmatically, I just want us to really think through how will businesses benefit from this. That's going to be the one thing I'll be looking for.
Great. And Mayor, just a couple other, do you mind if I just, what I
Sure.
heard also, that any educational materials, I think you really want us to emphasize that it hasn't been updated since 1978. So we'll make sure we emphasize that. And then I think we've been talking about coming back in November after we balance, because we know that the balancing our budget for next fiscal year is going to be very tight. So we come back in November after the election so we know what happened with this vote. And I think that could be an opportunity for us to talk about, with the added money from this business, if it passes. We know it's still going to be tight, but we may want to talk about restoring some services or things that have been super tight that we might want to address. So we could have that conversation about the benefit to businesses at that time, if that makes sense.
Okay, so language, emphasize 1978, and then come back in November with programmatic details.
Yep, and I think also what I also heard is that we'll bring back, I don't think we would I agree with Councilmember Bonilla that I think even though there are other jurisdictions around us that have updated, we still compete with jurisdictions that haven't updated. So I'm not sure I would recommend changing this, but I think we could bring the data back. And so we could add a graph that shows where we stack up compared to jurisdictions that have modernized as additional information. I heard that comment as well.
Okay, it seems like there's agreement on that. Okay, well, that's good. All right, well, thank you. Do you have what you need? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, can I just ask, will there be any modification then? Because I guess my concern here is, what was the value of the feedback tonight if the feedback is really just bring this back so we can approve it? Because my concern is we're going to need labor to support us in passing this at some point. And if we're not being receptive to their feedback, that becomes a bit more difficult. So I just want to, are we going to see any kind of modification between now and when this comes forward again?
Yeah, we are not we brought this in February. We invited all labor partners. I haven't heard any, we've invited them to come. I haven't heard any concerns from labor partners. In fact, I've heard that some of them are, prepared to support it and to try to support us, and so, or support the measure. But I don't think we'll be making any changes at this point, based on the feedback. But that was this opportunity, was to provide that. But we tried to make a lot of changes based on the feedback we heard.
I understand. I understand that we have to move this forward in one way, shape, or form. I would hope that we would, I guess, presenting some of the feedback you received between now and then at the end might be helpful, and just being open to some minor modifications if necessary. I just don't want to preclude saying there's absolutely no room for feedback, because we're in a very fluid situation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone comes to us with comments, we will bring those to you, and we can, even if we're introducing an ordinance, and we're doing it relatively early, May, and so we have a little time. If you did want to make changes, we could, we'd have to work that out with legal, but we could potentially make some small changes at the dais, and then we could always postpone it and come back again.
If my colleagues are okay with it, it needs to be consensus, but I just don't want to close out labor from the discussion fully. Yeah.
We are always open for feedback with our labor partners. And then Councilmember Andrews.
For transparency, can we give a deadline for the labor partners to respond?
Yeah.
Just so they're on the same page.
Sure, I think what it sounds like in that case, if with your guys' direction, we could send, I think, more explicit instructions that if they would like to send us feedback, maybe
By
in
a
the next
specific
2
date?
weeks with we would need it probably within the next 2 weeks so that we could prepare for the May.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Roach.
I appreciate the discussion, but this was the chance to do the feedback. This was our work session, and I think most of us were okay with the current match neighbors the way it is, because there were comments. I understand the comments that some cities will be modernizing, but I think we've now had comments basically saying, yeah, but it's today's dollars that we're looking at. So I think there was a majority in council for us to say we're going to go with the current proposed match neighbors, and there was an opportunity today. They knew that they actually were able to call in and talk about it, and so I appreciate that feedback, but I'm comfortable with the current match neighbors the way it is and the way it's proposed, and I'm not sure, because if we give them a deadline to come back later, don't we have to have another meeting to discuss said proposal? I think that's what I'm concerned about, because we're trying to move forward with the ballot measure here, and we don't have much time. So I think that the priority is to get it on the ballot in the fall.
Yeah, I also believe we provided them with the opportunity in February, and we did invite them to that meeting and tonight. But I think if they provide feedback, we will use our judgment and we can provide that in your staff report, and then you can. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to make a discretionary decision in May to approve this or not, and we'll provide you with that information, and then you can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to move forward or make a change at that meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that we're not going to spend too much time going in circles, just to be honest with you. I think that there was an opportunity to weigh in on what was being discussed. I think we heard the comments. I think in a very respectful way, we discussed those comments. We identified if there was an opportunity to incorporate them right now, and there's not. So I think that we owe it to staff to be clear and to say move forward with the direction that you've been given as it's been presented. If there's something that's groundbreaking that comes through that needs to be considered, then sure, we'll be open to it. But otherwise, I do think that there's been ample opportunity, and I think that it's time to move forward with, with clear direction. So thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. So, okay, great. All right. With Mayor Pro Tem Syrup.
Thanks. I think there's probably majority consensus here. So I'm just saying this to say it. I think there are alternative. I'm curious, I guess if through their feedback we are able to yield an additional $1 or $2 million in revenue, for example, I would be interested in hearing that or seeing that option if we introduce two ordinances simultaneously so that we can meet our legal deadline and say, well, if we support this one, then we're just going to vote down this other one, right? Are there ways in which we could approach this that don't slow down the timeline that could yield more revenue? I'm just open to that possibility, but I'm in the minority here. But I think I just wanted to express, I think there are ways of working around this tight deadline without slowing staff down, which I respect the perspective of here. But I just wanted to name that as a potential possibility. But I think it's been settled.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do you have what you need?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Perfect. All righty. All right, thank you. So I will close item 13 and I will move on to item 14, and which is it's another work session, tree mitigation in lieu fee, and this is going to come to us from Development Services, Sarah Bowser, and I see Jeremy at the dais, so something really big is about to happen.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Happy to be here. I am going to turn it over to our landscape architect, Theo Spores, who will be leading our work session discussion tonight on the tree mitigation in lieu fees, and get some thoughts from council on ways we can spend some of this money. So hopefully a positive discussion tonight. So I will turn it over to Theo.
Rookie. Thank you very much. I am Theo Spores. As stated, I'm a landscape architect in DSD Planning Department. And we are here to talk about the in lieu fee allocation potential. And we'd like to talk to you about that and then get your feedback. Go to the first slide. Next here. Okay, thank you. So the background for the in lieu fee is that in the 2025 tree preservation ordinance, which we updated last year, we formalized this really the existing in lieu fee for development projects. The in lieu fees are offered as a final option after the replanting of trees on a development site or a new project are not possible. This is the sort of the last option for a developer or a builder. In this program, we anticipate an potential annual revenue from in lieu fees of being about $250,000. That gives us a significant positive potential increase in trees in the community. We broke these potential allocations into three categories. And so I'd like to go over those briefly. So based on feedback that we received during the development and the acceptance of the what we call the TPO, or Tree Preservation Ordinance, we've been working toward a comprehensive approach that allocates these fees into three sort of broad categories, if you will. The first category being the administrative and support and program management. So this is kind of broken down to a couple different ways. One is to meet, the City of Hayward's climate goals, to track, evaluate, and act based on the information that we gather and data. The second one is to continue to serve the community with the commitments that we already have as a city to plant trees in city spaces and city-owned properties, and to meet our current service obligations to obtain to obtain cost recovery for any additional labor for new programs and projects, et cetera. The second category is the social equity and community partnerships. This was something that came up quite a bit from Planning Commission and from the council as well. That part of our obligation and duty is to serve as many residents as possible. And we would like to see a citizen tree grant program developed so that those individuals that can't really afford to, say, maintain a tree, prune their tree, et cetera, have an avenue to get some support for private property owners. We also would like to see the possibility of creating some tree planting programs, and those are really most successful when they are community-based. We'd like to team with some partners that are experienced in community outreach, education, tree care and maintenance, which will allow for more successful long-term results in increasing our tree canopy, which has been something we talked about extensively in the Tree Preservation Ordinance. Oops, sorry, I skipping ahead on slides here. The third category is environmental resiliency and sustainable planning. Periodically, we are going to need to redo our tree canopy study, which you may recall we looked at a couple of times once it was created in 2023, and we looked at it extensively in the Tree Preservation Ordinance. And that really illustrated where we have canopy and where we don't. So it's the best way, one of the best ways for us to target and increase in canopy and evaluate where we can improve and what strategies we need to be successful in increasing our tree canopy. Another great tool would be to create an urban forest master plan, which is a comprehensive roadmap, which is designed to proactively manage, expand, and diversify the city's tree canopy. The plan would expand benefits to the community, through shade, air quality, climate resilience, et cetera. And the third, which is a little bit of a turn on increasing canopy, is defensible space planning. So we have high severity fire zones in the city, and this would enable us, when it comes up, to create defensible space in areas where we might have dangerous situations, but still retain tree canopy in a defensible way. It's a little safer. So it might be removing invasive species or something like that, or creating better spatial relationships. So we put together this graph that shows some proposed program funding. And again, it's broken into those three sections that we just went over. But in the first administrative support phase, you can see we've broken it down into these first three items are things that we already have in the city at some form. So we have software, the Planet Geo software. We have a street tree planting program currently in the city of Hayward, and we do maintenance, of course, on those trees. And then we would look at program administration for the entirety of programs that are selected as well. And those are broken down by an estimated dollar amount that we would see for an allocation, and then what that percentage is of the total projects, those allocations. So social equity, again, the grant assistance program, the nonprofit, planting and outreach programs with community partners, and then environmental resilience, sustainability, et cetera, that we just went over. If we were, in best case scenario, all those things were going to happen at once, and we had the money for it, this particular layout would be $285,000. Of course, we're proposing a general hope, because we don't know how much money, if any, that we will get from season to season, year to year, but a $250,000 average per year. So that really gets us to the end of, what we're proposing and how we're seeing these allocations and how they might be directed. And so we're requesting feedback from the council on the proposed allocations for these in lieu fees. And so number one, does the council support staff's recommendation to fund program administration, planning, and programming at 15%? Number two, does the council support funding of community projects, partnerships, and programs as recommended by staff? And number three, are there any other programs, such initiatives that the council would like staff to focus on? There's, again, feedback and wanting to do what's best for the community is what we're interested in. So do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. Let me see. Well, it is a work session, so let me first go to public comment. Let's see. I don't have any public comment online. I don't see any, I don't have any cards, so I will close public comment and I will come back to the dais. And Mayor Pro Tem Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for this presentation. Very fitting for our Arbor Day proclamation that we had earlier. So good timing. Overall, I'm supportive of this plan. I like seeing that we're creating a plan of what to do with these in lieu fees. I'm hoping that, I understand the assumption of $250,000 annually based off of what we're seeing now, but like you said, we're not sure if that's guaranteed. So my hope is that we are able to have this conversation on a fairly regular or annual basis, just so that we can prioritize what to do with the funds that we do have. Whatever management costs are necessary just to keep the administration of these programs afloat as a baseline, I'm supportive of keeping on an annual basis, just to make sure that we don't lose sight of our tree planting goals. And I see these funds as the way that we're being able to actually execute on them and make good on our desire to be a tree city in the USA. I love the Tree City title. We still have a lot of work to do, though. When you go into the western parts of Hayward, it starts to feel like a desert, and the heat sinks that are created by the wide roads and the lack of tree coverage can really, you really do feel the difference. And so, I think what I'm curious about too is, for the projects that are being put forward, how are we focusing on equity as it relates to tree and canopy development around the city? And that might fall under our tree master plan that we're developing. But just wanting to have that communicated both to the council as well as to the community when we embark on a tree planting project or initiative. I know that 100K Trees Hayward has been a longtime advocate, and I would imagine is the community partner you may have in mind. Could you speak a little bit to how that $75,000 fits into working with them, I'm assuming, or if at all?
Yeah, it's a little hard to say initially because it depends on the size of the project, scale, et cetera. And we would have to develop our partnership and what we're going to address. So basically, it's a big PR portion as well as the planting and maintenance of trees. In the staff report, it did do, I believe, a breakdown of tree cost, estimated tree cost, planting and maintenance. So we can go back and look at those numbers. But as I recall, it was around $465 per tree. And so you can imagine that it starts to eat up that $75,000 pretty quickly. But if we do a program with volunteers for planting, we get a grassroots organization together, we can bring those costs down considerably. That's more the cost at the city level. So that's one reason that these programs at the grassroots level are so important, is we can get a lot, we get multiple things. We get a lot for our dollar, basically, and we get buy-in that we can't purchase the buy-in. We get physical people that are interested in planting trees and wanting to preserve them and make sure that they succeed.
Great. And then I think in the similar spirit of stretching our dollars, when we're looking at what we want to prioritize around environmental resilience, I think you mentioned like vegetation clearing as an example of mitigating fire. Rather than spreading ourselves thin and trying to have too many programs, I'd love to understand what you think is the best bang for buck program. Like, we can cover this much ground with this kind of program for the lowest dollar cost. Do you already have a sense of what that might be? Or is that what the funding that you're trying to deploy now is setting out to do?
Well, it's a little both, because we want to also make sure that we're still meeting core services and the ability to maintain our commitments within the city properties. But the grassroots programs, as long as we can get the long-term commitment to them, I think are the best example. The difficulty is that we need sites to do those programs. And we need to discover where those are. Obviously, we have our map we can look at, and we physically can drive around Hayward, but we need sites for those programs to take place. Some of those could possibly be within city property and right-of-way, but that incorporates, that whole other level of commitment from the community, cutting concrete out of planter strips, another level of commitment and money as well. So. But I really think that based on talking with other groups, Canopy, which is a nonprofit in Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, their programs are quite rich with education programs and people growing into their organization, and it's moved into other cities. But it's quite layered and diverse, and it's a really good fabric of community that's involved at all levels. And I think that's gives us the most resilience for community and the most resilience, with our tree canopy as well.
Great. Okay. Thanks for answering those questions. If my colleague, Councilmember Zermeño, supports this, then I'm supportive of it. Thanks.
Councilmember Andrews.
I planted a lot of trees around the city too. I just want to remind people of that. So, thank you for the presentation. I think it's important to reduce heat island effect, so whatever we can do to reduce that would be great. I'm also interested in any programs that incentivize businesses to adopt more trees, so they have a lot of the footprint that needs to be covered, including parking lots. So I know that we have our requirements for our developments, but if we can encourage them to install more trees, maybe there's some incentives in their developments that we can look at. I know that we have a checklist that we usually refer them to, so if there's anything we can increase that'd be great. I also support programs that do not impact the general fund, because even though this is covered by the in lieu fee, sometimes our programs causes more issues on our general fund. So if we can make sure that doesn't happen, that'd be great. So if we can properly manage those programs, including the oversight of them in the in lieu fees, then I'm interested. I also agree with defensible space and making sure that we are looking at trees that are going to support the area and not attract more risk, and would be interested in making sure that we are working with partners such as BOSCA, Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, to make sure that the trees that they're planting are not going to take up too much water as well. And then also working with our Clean and Green Commission to make sure that they're in the loop in terms of outreach. And I also would like us to consider strategic locations for tree planting and types of trees. Many people travel to Washington, D.C., Asian countries for the cherry blossoms, and the Northeast when it's the fall. So if there's some locations that we can identify specific trees that businesses can be incentivized to plant in a certain block or a row, just to invite more visitors, but also create placemaking. I think that'll be something that we can look at as part of the program. I will also say that I would be also interested in alternative names to master plan. It is an outdated term that we should not really be using anymore, as it connotes subordination. So if we can consider comprehensive or other terms such as the Tree Canopy Action Plan, I would prefer to use that moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Zermenio.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, tree protectors and lovers like me. It's very important. I was really upset at the city of Hayward because two beautiful trees that I loved were killed. One on 8th Street, another one in Soto, and that was because they caused accidents. But it's actually dummies who don't know how to drive that crashed into them. And another one, beautiful oak tree was felled because it was causing too much litter. Anyway, the mayor read to us today that in the first Arbor Day back in the 1800s, 1 million trees were planted in Nebraska. So when are we going to do this? If they were able to do it in 1895, can Hayward do it in 2026 or 2027?
We will do our best to meet the goals and the objectives that council has as far as tree planting.
Okay.
I don't know that I can provide you a specific date as to when we will hit that 1 million tree number.
So let's work on that. So your three questions, yes, I support the plan 100% of one and number two. And on number three, there are three possible areas where we can maybe work on. One is heritage tree identification to ensure that a tree that has been identified as a heritage tree through something, a ribbon or something, can be protected. And then perhaps another one would be a tree count. I still do not know how many trees we have in Hayward. And then also third, can we identify areas in Hayward that would be liability-free where we could plant fruit trees? I know the reason that Hayward does not plant fruit trees is because we are scared that a pedestrian will walk by under this apricot tree, slip, and then sue us. So there must be areas in Hayward where we can plant something that pedestrians will not slip on accidentally. So those are three possible areas where we can spend some money. Okay, tree canopy. Tree canopy means that the tree is fully grown, correct? And it provides shade? That is what tree canopy means?
The tree canopy changes over time.
Okay.
But yes, it is the width of the shade area of the tree.
Right, and the best example of that is B Street, right behind us, correct? Where the canopy
It's a very good example, yes.
It's the best example. So we have a lot of other areas in the city of Hayward, as has been mentioned already, that are dying for a tree. They're dying for trees. Hesperian, that's one possibility. Grand Avenue coming over here. So what is the easiest way through this grant, if it's possible, to come up with some kind of a program, let's say Access Hayward, something similar where I can pinpoint a possible tree planting area and then you can look at it, you can go study it. I don't know if that's a possible use of the funds. so that this way we can plant trees. I've already identified 20 different areas on Tennyson Road where we can plant a tree. I would love to be able to share that with you or with someone, because if we need more canopy, then of course we need more trees. So that's the best way to do about it.
I would just say, please send us the information that you have, and we'll certainly take that under advisement as far as locations go. So if you do have some specific identified locations, Councilmember, I'd encourage you to send them, and we're happy to take a look at that and see if we can prioritize some of those locations.
Yes.
See how they line up with the maps that we've already done that show where the canopy is deficient. And so where we have alignment, that might make sense and be an area that we could prioritize placement.
Very good. And the educational aspect to this is very important, as we have one of the trucks that has a free tree for your house. So thank you for doing this. I will go out and hug a tree tomorrow just to honor this, and keep planting trees. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Bonilla.
May I respond to a couple of questions you had, or a couple of comments? Of some things that are actually happening now, addressing a couple of your items, the heritage tree identification and the tree count. Those are happening by default with the new Planet Geo software that Maintenance Services is utilizing. They're recording trees in the city, and there's a map of those trees and types, size, et cetera. So 2 of those things are already being addressed, which is quite encouraging.
And how will I know that this tree is a heritage tree?
I can send you the tree preservation ordinance. We have the qualifications to become a heritage tree, and that's how a tree becomes a heritage tree, is it meets the qualifications that are set forth in the tree preservation ordinance. So unless we're going to set up another program.
Right. It's just for, it's just a typical Hayward resident can say, oh, look, oh, that's a tree. Okay, that's a heritage tree. That one is not, et cetera. Some way to identify them. And I'm glad that you're working on it. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Bonilla.
Thank you. I'll be brief in my comments because I generally agree with everything you heard from my colleagues. So I do support the 15% program administration, planning, and programming fee. As it relates to the projects, I do support those projects, the community projects, partnerships, and programs recommended by staff, but I do want to uplift what Councilmember Syrup said. I really do want to see these projects with an equity lens, right? Like, I know we're intentional about where we're serving, but I also want us to be intentional about where we're not serving. And are there other programs or initiatives that council would like us to focus on? Nope, I think that this is a good plan, so thank you for the great work.
Thank you. Just 2 things. One, I just wanted to, I didn't see, actually, no, go ahead. Councilmember Roach, and then Councilmember Goldstein.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mayor. Yeah, thank you. I know everyone said a lot of things here, so, and I'm supportive of this plan, so thank you. There was just a couple things I wanted to add. Yes, I appreciate what you said about in the social equity inclusion programs, that the point is to affect as many people as possible, and we can't possibly do that with the city staff. So, distributing some of this, I think, out to the community is the way to go. And I mean, I would even, if we find ourselves not being able to get to the future canopy study or the urban Forest Master Plan, I would encourage us to then use any, I mean, I don't know, I know it's not a world where we have leftover money these days, but if we do, because we couldn't get to some of that, I would put it back in the social equity programs, because if we have these different agencies that we, some of that were talked about tonight, doing great work out there, and we know they can get more trees in than we can in a given year, let's sort of default to that. And then I also wanted to ask you, you brought up the people with the cement mow strips. Are we coordinating that when people come in to do home renovation, that's the moment, I think, right, where it's going to be more affordable for them to knock out that cement and put in a tree? Is there coordination between this program and planning on that? And can we do that? That maybe it's just part of whatever they have to come into for permits, that they get a little, flyer or an update that says, now's the time for a tree? And can we do that?
It depends on the triggers for what's being developed and for a renovation. But there so there are opportunities to where they have to meet landscape plans, et cetera, irrigation and planting, and that's the time that we ask for those trees to go in.
I mean, I certainly don't want to add this to be a resource problem. But
Yeah, I'm just thinking it could be rather challenging. I mean, if we have somebody coming in and they're doing a bathroom remodel, it might be really hard to say, oh, and now I need you to remove the concrete out in front and plant a tree. So I think what, Mr. Spores is referring to is when we have a project that comes in that does involve sort of that extensive work, they've got to do landscaping work. There's a better nexus and connection there, and the project probably is a little bigger. They can absorb the cost of probably doing some of that. It's a little hard if they're not touching anything on the outside, but there's opportunities, and we're happy to look at where there may be connections, and we can encourage. Yes.
Can I just say, but it sounded like maybe you're talking about educating people too.
Yeah,
about
I think that's what I'm
programs
getting at. Like, definitely not requiring it if you're doing a bathroom model, but hey, you're doing some upgrades. Don't forget you can put in a tree, and now, more of that line of thinking than making it any sort of city requirement. But because it's. In any of those scenarios, the Mostrip isn't necessarily going to be involved, but for them to know, hey, you're upgrading, you're painting, you're making it look good. It'll look good if you put a tree in your Mostrip. So yeah, that's all I'm getting at. Thank you. I hate to say it, I'm one of them because when we bought our house, somebody had cemented in the Mostrip. I want to do it, we just haven't done it yet. So don't write me out, everyone. Okay, and so wait, where are my other comments here? And on the defensible space, are we working with the fire? Do we work with the fire department on that? Okay, yes, because I know they're doing that good work and getting their grants rate, I think, in that area. So good, if we can coordinate these efforts, that would be great. And then, the final thing is just a more education. I think people have this idea, because I heard this when I was out campaigning the first time, that trees are messy, they create liability for the sidewalk, your sidewalk liability. And that it's just sort of difficult to maintain. And I think, just the education of people understanding that trees in cities actually make our property values, go up. And, people covet cities that have canopies along their streets. And I don't know how we educate that. It's also a value, it's sort of different aesthetic values. But yeah, to George's point, we have some areas of the city where they're just bald, right? It is hot out there. And I think if they understood what that would do to their property values, it's just more education on this. So otherwise, thank you so much for the update.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Yeah, thank you for the report. I also am in favor of this plan. 15% I think is pretty reasonable. I would, as my colleagues have suggested, try to apply building out the canopy in areas that are currently neglected. Tennyson Road kind of comes to mind. There are sections of that are just all concrete, and if you ever try walking out there, I think you know how hot it is, even just on a somewhat warm day. So I'm in favor of that. I think also educating our residents about the value of tree canopies. I know we did that in the past a couple of times, I seem to recall. Do we still have a tree giveaway program? We do still?
Yes, Maintenance Services has a tree giveaway program. I think it's a grant, and it runs through 2027.
Nice, okay. And so I seem to recall at one point we were sending out some material and email announcements and others that were not only promoting that, but also promoting why to do it, why plant a tree. And I would like to see us do that as long as it doesn't come out of general fund. Sorry, I'm not trying to be glib, but I really mean it. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree generally with everything up here. The one thing I did want to put or sort of shed light on is I get a lot of calls and emails around tree trimming. That seems to be a high ticket item for a lot of homeowners. Just if we can just pay some attention to how we fund that bucket, it'd be nice if people call us. There are neighborhoods, and I'm sure you've seen them, there's homes out there that have these huge trees that cost thousands of dollars to trim. And you know, and the homeowner or, you know, whoever just simply cannot afford to trim it. So if we can just sort of be mindful of that, that would be nice. And then I just wanted to, I kind of liked Councilmember Andrews' suggestion about naming the plan, you know, a tree conservation action plan. I think that's great. You know, kind of changes the orientation around around trees. But yes, I think all the other comments I agree with, and you know, we certainly need more trees out there, no doubt. Ms. Bowser, do you have what you need?
I think so. We appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will move on to the next item. The next item will be, it is a legislative business item, and it is, hold on, oops. It is item number 15, LB 26-006. It's the fiscal year 2026 salary plan amendment. Adopt a resolution approving an amendment of the City of Hayward salary plan for fiscal year 26. And this report will come to us by way of Human Resources Director Texon. It's a short report. How long's your report?
It's up to you if you want to report or not.
Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we forego staff report and just go straight to questions and see if there are any questions up here the dais. So, Mr. Texon, thank you. I will. It is a legislative item, so I'll see if there's any questions from council first. Councilmember Syra.
Thank you. Could you just speak to, because of sensitivity around costs of the city, can you speak to where these costs are coming from, just for public information?
Absolutely. These costs are coming out of enterprise funds. So you'll see on the slide here, they're coming mostly from the Water Enterprise Fund, and then one of them is a combination of the Water Enterprise Fund, Stormwater Fund, and Sewer Fund.
Great. And then for the public's knowledge, our enterprise funds operate like businesses, so they're required to generate revenue to sustain their own operations. This is not coming from the general fund, correct?
Correct,
okay,
yes.
Great. Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then the compaction or the built-in raises here are baked into the MOU or labor contracts that have been negotiated in the past, correct?
That is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I will move on to public comment. I do not have public comment, so I will close public comment and I'll entertain a motion. Oops, hold on. Move. Okay, I saw it. Moved by. I don't have it. I don't have a motioner or a seconder. Moved by Councilmember Goldstein, seconded by Councilmember Andrews. Madam City Clerk, we can take roll. Looks like item will unanimously pass. Okay, moving on to council reports and announcements. Mayor Pro Tem Syrup.
I appreciate Councilmember Andrews' tree planting efforts. I didn't request to speak, but I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay. Okay. We're all celebrating Councilmember Andrews' tree planting work. There are no council reports or announcements. I will move on to council referrals. There are no council referrals. Ladies and gentlemen, our next meeting will be April 21st, 2026. Meeting adjourned.
Record.